Hello, I'm Joanne Bester and welcome back to another episode on our Regen series. Today we have the privilege of visiting with David McEwen on Fairfield outside Middelburg. He is one of the farmers that has started with this holistic approach, and he's going to talk to us about some practical examples. David, tell us a bit more about how you got started.
I originally started, let me start from the beginning. I started farming back in 2003. I was on my own without anyone to sort of mentor me, so I fell around a bit, and then I did a holistic management course in Freiburg with Dick Richardson back in 2006. And that got me thinking differently about farming, the sort of getting into the regenerating the land, and it got me into a system to start off basically with. That's basically how I got started.
What are the infrastructure requirements, and how did you manage to make use of what you have so as to be able to not view the requirements as a stumbling block or a reason not to start?
I think the biggest limiting factor is when you're running a large number of stock together is water. So I think from that point of view, I think one needs to get that sorted out first. Once you've got your watering systems in place, when you've got a 40-degree day, you really need, the livestock really need good fresh drinking water. So that's the basis to start, I think, is to get your watering point set up, and then from there start working on fencing, getting your camp slightly smaller, and the whole concept is running large numbers of animals together in small areas and moving them more frequently. So that's very important to get going with.
When you speak about starting with water, how did you practically go about that? Did you start at a central point on the farm and sort of building your pipelines out from that? Did you need to put in bigger pipelines to be able to manage the quantities of water needed? Do you use a mobile system? Where did you go?
Yeah, I originally started just using what I had, the windmill systems, just the windmills, and then realized, as I grew, I think the big thing with this whole system, one needs to grow into it slowly. You can't just suddenly overnight start farming this direction. So I think it's important to get your watering points set up. So I started originally with the original infrastructure I had, and then where I saw the weaker points, the areas which I needed to upgrade, and started upgrading those slightly. I've got 3 Eskom points on the farm, which today probably isn't ideal to have, but that's helped me tremendously because I've got pretty good underground water. So I pump a lot of water from those Eskom points, which has helped. On areas where I don't have Eskom, I've gone to solar options. And the big thing is also water storage, having enough water supply for 2 or 3 days. So if there is a problem, you at least got a bit of reserve to react and sort that out.
Okay. So David, you spoke about how fencing also plays a crucial role, and we need to split up our camps a little bit smaller to be able to implement this. Fencing, as we know, is quite expensive to do these days, permanent fencing anyway. But I see you are making use of movable electric fencing, and how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I think you need a basic structure. So I've tried to use my original camps as much as possible, and then from there I've tried to build sort of corridors with permanent fencing. I've also gone down to 3-strand electric fencing, which obviously makes it a lot cheaper. My iron standards are quite far apart, and the animals learn to respect the electric fence. You still have the odd 1 or 2 that go through, but on the whole, I think it's a good system to have if you're looking financially. To put up those 3-strand fence are a lot cheaper than a normal stock-proof fence. And then from there, I subdivide with the temporary electric fences. The temporary electric fences are put up on a daily basis. We try and get about 2 or 3 days put up ahead. So if there is a crisis on the farm, it's quick just to roll up a fence and get the stock moving. And then when there is time, we put up the temporary fences. And with that comes your felt management on knowing how much to take off the felt, and watching your animals to make sure that they're getting enough feed in. That's very crucial, to make sure at the end of the day your animals have had enough food so they don't lose condition.
I think it's incredibly useful that you mentioned that you have 2 or 3 days planned ahead, because as we know, farming does happen and life does happen, and you sometimes do run into trouble if you need to set up the whole camp just to be able to make one move. So I think that's very good advice. But then I just want to hear from you, how long does it take to actually set up that camp, and how much staff do you need?
Well, it depends on the terrain. It takes 2 guys probably about half an hour to 45 minutes to roll the fence up and set up one new fence. So that's pretty much what it takes. It also depends on the size, which varies quite a bit depending on the soil type, the quality of the veld. Obviously, the better veld, like in this river veld we're standing in now, which is slightly better quality, the areas will be slightly smaller that the animal's going to. So at this stage, we're looking at about a 5 hectare block, and that can hold about, I've got about 300 cows and 1,000 ewes together in one area, and that goes up to about 15 hectares, just depending on the size. So it's very important. I try and come to the stock at the end of the day just to make sure that they've got good gut full, that their rumens are full, and that they're satisfied at the end of the day.